Welcome everyone to this OWL Taking Flight webinar. My name is Amy Johnson and I am the Minister for Sexuality, Education, and Justice, serving in the national setting of the United Church of Christ. Today we are going to be addressing the UCC and UUA response to anti-LGBTQ legislation that has been sweeping the nation. As we get started, I would like to introduce and welcome all the folks who are here today with us, and also say that we will be joined later in this webinar by an additional panelist, Reverend Erin Walter from Texas. She's a chaplain in the UUA. I just introduced myself, so Melanie. Welcome.
Good day, everybody. I'm Melanie Davis. I am the UUA's Our Whole Lives Program Manager. And Michael, I'll invite you to go next.
Hello, thank you so much, Melanie. I am the Reverend Michael Crumpler, the LGBTQ and Multicultural Program Director at the Unitarian Universalist Association, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. And I will invite Yadi.
Hello, my name is Yadi Martinez Reina, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm an associate pastor at New Church Fiesta Nueva, United Church of Christ in Dallas, Texas, and I'm an OWL facilitator. I'm a borderlander, Latino, and I am proud to be part of the United Church of Christ.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Mike Schenemeier. I'm the minister and team leader for the Health and Wholeness Advocacy team in the national setting of the United Church of Christ. I give particular legs to HIV and LGBTQ.
Uh-oh. I think we have
Ministries in the United Church of Christ, but also health and disability ministries, and also harm reduction and overdose prevention work. And it's good to be with you today.
Thanks. You froze there for a second, Mike, but I'm glad you're back. If you would all, if you are, if you're willing and able, just join me in a moment for centering prayer before we get started. Spirit of love, we give you thanks today for this opportunity to lift up the important ministries of these denominations, for the work for justice that continues. And we are grateful for all of you who are joining us today and how the expansiveness of this community continues to grow to serve justice and love in our world. Amen. Okay, so we are going to go to, I think, gallery view here, or maybe we are there already. And I'm going to ask our folks here to kind of go through some of the initiatives that they are working on and the responses. There are a lot. And so hopefully this will be a hopeful time for us all today to hear all of these things and give any of you who are on opportunities to join and lift up all of these efforts that are happening. So with that, I'm going to start with Reverend Mike Schenemeier in the United Church of Christ and Yadi together, I think, and back and forthing about the UCC's initiatives and responses to this issue, as you have done for years and continue to do, and particularly right now in the spotlight. So. Yes.
Wanted to break in for a second. If people have questions for any of our guests or for me or Amy, please put them in the Q&A rather than in the chat. Then they're all in one place and Amy and I can monitor those as our guests are speaking. Thank you.
So thank you, Amy and Melanie, and it's great to be with you and Michael. Back in mid to late February, as things were moving forward with a number of legislation issues across the country, we established a UCC trans and binary strategy group, and Yadi's a part of that group. So we've been working on this for the past several weeks. And the thing that has been really new, I think, this year is not the fact that there's been an onslaught of legislation. We have seen an onslaught of legislation for a number of years, more than 10 years. I think every state legislative session, we'll see 100 to 200, sometimes 300 pieces of legislation come through state houses. The thing about those pieces of legislation is that most of the time they don't get traction. They don't even get a hearing. It's just they get proposed, they're in the hopper somewhere, but they never really get acted on. What has really changed this year is that so many of these bills have been acted on. Many of them have passed legislatures. Many of them have been signed into law. In some cases, they've been vetoed. And in some cases, the veto has been upheld. And in other cases, it's been overturned. So that's really one of the significant changes. Along with that, then, has come this really intensely divisive political season, which is so typical now of ways in which our political parties are finding wedge issues and ways in which people can be demonized in order to gain political votes and to win political power. It is not new in our history that people of different sexual orientations and gender identities and expressions, particularly women as well, are the subjects who are part of these divisive actions that are being demonized and devalued by the way in which the rhetoric is occurring. And it doesn't matter whether something is happening in your state, the ways in which viral social media and national politics are shared in our media, it's pervasive. And so everybody is exposed to it. It's harmful rhetoric. It creates a sense of despair and isolation. And it puts people in a very difficult place. Whether they're people of lived experience, of trans and non-binary experience, or whether they're a friend, a family member, a parent, a member of the community, it causes people to feel unsafe. Especially when the bills call for, in some cases, people to be charged with felony offenses for providing care. Especially when some of the legislation calls on citizens to be the ones who oversee, not so much oversee, who are patrolling whether somebody is receiving care that might fit under this anti-legislation. Whether it's a teacher who's responding to the authentic expression of a student who could then be subject to a criminal indictment. And so I think it really is the responsibility of faith communities, and particularly those of us who carry with us the values of healthy, holy human sexuality, to be engaged in response and to be the places where people find respite, sanctuary, support, solidarity, but more than just words, actions to make change happen. And so that's what we're trying to do. A confession, we are late to the game. United Church of Christ is late to the game. I don't know any denomination that hasn't been late to the game. And many of us have been on the front lines trying to work on this, but still, we have not been as successful as perhaps we would like to have been at mobilizing the response that may have made a difference earlier in the journey. And so we need to own that and be humbled by the fact of that. But that should not be a barrier for us to stand up and move as effectively as we can today. So we are working at this. The trans non-binary group is a group that includes people of lived experience. Yadi's one of those people. and conference ministers and other leaders in the national setting, as well as some of the leaders of quality organizations in Texas and Alabama and other settings, Ohio, to help us try to put together some effective strategies that we can move forward with. We created some visibility around Trans Visibility Day, but I want to talk about a little bit about some of the things we have going now, moving towards Pride Month, because we are getting ready to issue a call to action to our folks in the United Church of Christ and whoever else would like to join us to really use the opportunities that Pride Month presents, worship experiences, the Pride celebrations that happen in various communities around the country, to uplift our trans and non-binary siblings, and to provide action and public witness in support and solidarity. So I want to just let you know where these things are in process, so we're still working on them, but I want to let you see where some of those things are going to be found and where some of them are already found. And that is at ucc.org/trans, TRANS. And if you go to that website, I don't know if I have the permission to share at the moment. Let's see. Oops. Let's see if I can share that. Oh, I can't. Great. Can everybody see that screen? I can't see you now that I've, okay, great. It says I'm sharing the screen. Great. So this is the website, and on the website you will.
Mike, hold on. It says that you have started sharing your screen, but I don't think we can see
See what I'm sharing. And okay. Well, so my computer is deciding it doesn't want to play today, or at least at this particular time, which is Murphy's Law, and that's how that works. So you'll be able to find, I know you see up there probably a very long URL. You don't have to remember that long URL, just ucc.org/trans will get you to this web page, and you'll find a number of resources there. Not able to get out of that. Andrea, our tech person, I wonder if you can stop the share for me. Okay. I can't see my notes as well. Okay, so, oh well. Yadi, let me have you reflect a minute while I try to get my technical piece here together, and then join after you share a bit about some of the work that the incredible work that you're doing in Texas.
Thank you, Mike. And one of the things that Mike said is these things are not new. They're always been around, right? But now it's making so much noise because it's gotten before so many people. And the thing is that our young friends out there, or our youth, our children are listening, and they get all this fear that's coming to them and this anxiety. And I've seen it through our youth, through our campuses, through their friends. I've been getting random emails and messages through the Discord app and other chats and social medias saying, are my parents gonna go to jail? Am I in trouble? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna survive? And although a lot of these things are not law yet, and we can even say, well, they're not, to the point of like, we're going to jail or your parents are going to jail. The truth is that in a young person's mind, it's like blowing completely out of proportion, and the anxiety has just gotten so huge in our LGBTQ plus young friends. And so it is great to be able to go back to them and say, there is a group of people out there you might not see, but there's a lot of people out there who are working to make sure that none of this becomes a reality, and that you can also see that there's going to be resources. There are resources. And so if one of the things that I would say all of this mess did besides the fear and all the stuff that it was going for. And I want to say that it had the opposite effect, because it made us rise up. It made us wake up, and it made us to not be so compliant on some of the things, but yet to go forward and to say we are here. And I personally say I'm here, I'm queer, but no, but we are here, and we have allies, and we are stronger, and we have different communities. And for me, specifically as a pastor that works with young people, OWL has given me the language to go back and to be able to use some of that language of self-worth, of responsibility, of justice, of inclusivity, of equity, and to be able to use some of those resources. Even the updated versions that are coming up on OWL on language have been so crucial to these moments. In Texas specifically, one of the things that I am doing with a group of friends from seminary was we decided to do a summer camp, and not just any summer camp. We at New Braunfels, Slumber Falls in New Braunfels, which is a camp from the South Central Conference, we decided to do a summer camp, a 4-day summer camp that is going to have workshops. So we're bringing trans feminine, trans masculine, non-binary. We're bringing all these people there to create workshops that are going to help our young friends ask questions, to learn more about diversity, inclusion. We have an activist coming from Puerto Rico to even talk about how to use the arts, how to use music, how to create this change that we want to see in the world. And the beautiful thing also about the summer camp is we're doing a drag show. So we open the last day of Saturday when we ask the young friends to do a drag show, to do a talent show, to come with their LGBTQ friends, and also allies, because we want to make sure that we get that word out there. Our allies are important. We are better together, stronger together, and we need to support each other. And so that's what we're doing. June 16th to 19th, we're doing a summer camp in New Braunfels, Lumber Falls, called Color Splash, because we're splashing with all the colors, with all the rainbow, all the beauty of the world. And we are doing this because we are taking back that rhetoric that drag shows are evil, or drag shows are, no, we're going to celebrate the visual arts. We're going to celebrate the performing arts. We're going to celebrate the sacredness that comes out of young people and the things that they can create. And so, and that's in June. So as Mike said, we're preparing for June, but we're doing so much work in the background to make sure that in June we hit that message. There was so much evil and things, that so much shadows, like a fog that started falling on us, and we are here to spread that light, and we're here. And so here's another beautiful thing about Texas. In Princeton, Texas, there's this little community called Texas Princeton Pride. And I'll put it in the chat in a minute. And this little community of young people are gathering. This is where I live in Princeton, Texas. They're gathering to do a little, LGBTQ pride event. And so the council at Princeton, Texas, has gone as far as to cancel nonprofits doing events so they can cancel this event. They have gone as far as to change the city ordinance, and they just keep messing with all these things. And so as a reverend of the United Church of Christ, I have joined the effort. And so we're saying, this is a nonprofit. Are you going to change also religious people from gathering at the park? Are you gonna ban me as a pastor from speaking in front of young people and other people? And so now their lawyer is stepping in saying, oh no, that's not what we meant. And so Texas Princeton Pride is going forward with all these changes that the city council is doing, and I find it amazing. But young people, they will lead, given the tools, given the language, and that is the beautiful thing about OWL, that we're gonna give them those tools and those languages, because they will get forward, they will lead, they will show us the way. And that is the beautiful thing of seeing this Texas Princeton diversity group, a bunch of young people from high school in a little podunk town in Texas that nobody knows, leading the way. And that is the beautiful thing about that. Trans Pride Initiative is another organization that is committed to helping the community. Trans Pride Initiative with Nell Gator in Texas is helping the older, I still see them as a youth, because many of them, I served with them when they're 16, now they're like in their 25 and 30s, but it is amazing to now see them helping the younger generation. And so I am glad to be part of this group with Mike, and to be committed with our UU friends and everyone out there that is now coming together to to make this move, this change that is so necessary. So Mike, you ready?
Yep.
Let's
Thanks
go.
so much, Shadi. I mean, you are providing such amazing leadership in Texas and also with our strategy group, and so grateful for doing and such wonderful and entering to this work. I just want to lift up that there's kind of three things that I think are really critical about our response. I think the first was talking about is making sure that we're offering the pastoral responses for people of trans non-binary experience. One of the things that is coming is a video campaign where we're going to, it's kind of a la It Gets Better. It's not the same, but a la we would call a Beloved by God campaign, where we're going to be inviting people 30-second videos of solidarity and support. And this is for everyone to be able to share those kinds of videos. We're currently creating a first videos so we can show people the kind of message that we're looking for. And so at the beginning of June, we'll be releasing that. And we hope that we'll have tons of these kinds of videos that we can share. So look for that. That's coming in early June. Secondly is the education piece. The Open and Affirming Coalition of the United States of Christ got some wonderful education pieces. So does the Our Whole Lives curriculum. In fact, I think overall, the curriculum I use, wonderful framing for being able to speak into this moment. And so please utilize those values as you address these issues, as I know many of you and all of you already do. And then the third piece is we got to stop the legislation. We got to create new policies that are supportive. So we need to support the Equality Act for the whole country, and we need to find ways to address these issues. We're curating what we hope will be an effective kind of national talking point document that will help people with some framing, and we'll be able to share through the Our Faith, Our Vote site on the ucc.org site some resources for how people can meet with their elected officials and other public officials, as well as how to access people who are candidates in some of the candidate forums and how to engage with some of those forums effectively with some strategies. And then some tips on what kind of interventions would you like to engage in: worship services, rallies at your local church, ecumenical and interfaith work, and just provide some basic documents about, suggestions for how to do that. One of the keys in doing this kind of advocacy work is making sure you're working with others on the ground with you in local setting who are doing this. And I recommend that folks access the Equality Federation website. This is where the various organizations gather to do their work nationally. And so you can links to your equality organization in your state, and they have a state-by-state legislative tracking tool, and you can see what's actually happening in your state. It's equalityfederation.org. It's a wonderful resource to help you stay in what's happening on those issues currently. And I'll wrap that up for my part and see who wants to go next. Everyone, it's great to be with you.
I really appreciated the hopefulness and learning how much is going on, and I hope that that like the camp that you're putting on, Yadi, I hope that is a wonderful success, and that can be held elsewhere to support young people. Michael, would you like to share?
Sure, yes. As stated earlier, I am the Reverend Michael Crumpler, the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director at the UUA. Thank you so much, Mike, for all that you shared. Part of me just wants to say ditto. Ditto, #UUA on the side of that, because so much of what you said resonates with what is happening here. Hopefully Aaron will join us soon, who's also in Texas with our UU Justice Ministries in Texas, doing a lot of work. We've been in partnership with both her and the Trevor Project, who's one of the leaders is Sam Ames, and so we've been working together. But but just to speak a little bit more about care in communities, it is so important for us to provide community support, pastoral care, and so forth. And a lot of that is recommitting to doing what we already begun to do years ago, and both the UCC and the UUA's history, open and affirming congregations. In our case, it's welcoming congregations program. So many of our congregations have become dormant in our welcome and really kind of topped out at marriage equality. And so we're really encouraging our congregations to recommit to being spaces of welcome. It is really, really difficult and hypocritical to be out in the streets fighting for anti-trans legislation when we have anti-trans congregations. So it is very, very important for our trans, non-binary, intersex, ace folks to have a place to be, to have a place to worship, to have a place to be connected, to have a place to not have to fight all the time. And so in Unitarian Universalism, we've encouraging our congregations to commit to renewing their welcome via our 5 practices of welcome renewal. It's an annual renewal program. You don't graduate from it, you do it continuously. And we as an institution are committed to supporting our congregations by offering what we call religious education and current framing for what welcome means today. And as Mike said, unfortunately, it's become anti-trans legislation and lo and behold, anti-gay legislation, which surely we thought we were beyond with Florida. And so that just reminds me that while the focus is the trans community right now, and sadly trans youth in particular, it is a strategy, as we saw this week with the leak of the brief from the Supreme Court decision. It is a strategy. It is a strategy with critical race theory. It is a strategy with voter suppression. It's a strategy. So on the one hand, while it is communicated in a very particular cultural issue that might resonate and raise fear, like youth on sports teams or trans youth on sports teams, it is not that specific. It is broad. It is broad. And therefore our response needs to be broad. Just because you don't know anyone who's trans, or just because no one's trans in your family, or just because you're not a youth anymore and you're beyond those things, this is not the time to bow out of the fight. And it is an election year, and everything is raw political, as Mike mentioned. And so we have to do our best to, from the school council to the Senate, to vote. And so our Unitarian Universalism 2 weeks ago launched our UU the Vote campaign, and our UU the Vote strategy is to get everyone connected at the grassroots level by phone bank training, canvassing, all the ways in which we raise awareness of an election year, particularly during a midterm year. And so later in our programming here, I will share the links to UU the Vote. You don't have to be a UU to join UU the Vote, but ultimately that is how we're going to fight back. We're also offering webinars as well. We have a spokespersons training that we hosted that is recorded, and that will be posted in the chat shortly, where we really want to folks to have the necessary resources to really show up. It is these laws get passed because they don't think anyone cares. And when a lot of times we don't have notice, But sometimes even when we do have notice, it's really difficult to get people to show up and speak out and know what they're talking about and have relationships with people. And so it is really, really important for us to practice articulating our values and not just take them for granted. Even if you have to script it out, write it out, you have to be able to succinctly, within a moment or two, articulate your values. Anyone can write an op-ed in many of our local papers. It is so important for you to know how to do that, who to contact to do that, and not just wait until the issue happens, but to be well rehearsed in that, particularly faith leaders. It is so important for us to be able to counter the faith narrative of conservatism that seems to have somehow we've ceded ground on what these issues are issues of faith or not faith. And so just as it is, anti-trans legislation is anti-faith. And we need to be able to say that anti-trans legislation is anti-faith. So, your congregations and churches need to reaffirm their welcome. You need to revisit the conversation. I know that 90% of UU congregations are formally welcoming congregations, but only 10% of them prior to 3 years ago are practicing renewal. And I'm not sure what those stats are in the UCC. And as a UCC ordained minister, I can speak with authority on the need for our UCC congregations to be just as committed to the open and affirming process as well. So there are many UCC congregations that haven't. Last I looked, I want to say the number was close to half. I could be wrong. There are many of our congregations who aren't on board yet with LGBTQ affirmation and support. So we just need to really, really recommit to that. Lastly, create spaces. I love this summer camp idea. I can't wait to share it myself with folks. It is so important. In Unitarian Universalism, for the second year in a row, we have been having uplift trans non-binary gathering spaces. It is a monthly gathering on the fourth Tuesday of the month, and it is for UUs and UU adjacent. It is a multi-generational space. It is a worship space, and it is a space for folks to feel connected. We unfortunately know that our congregations aren't always welcoming spaces for trans folks, and we want this to be a place where folks can get to know one another. So we're ending the second program year, and we are looking for ways to expand it. One of the things that we are piloting this coming congregational year is a chaplaincy support space connected to the trans non-binary gathering, where folks can receive pastoral care that perhaps their ministers aren't trained or equipped to offer them. We have a group called Trust, which stands for Trans Religious UUs Together. These are our religious professionals who are trans that we are constantly supporting, and we want to continue to reaffirm that support within our congregations and within our denominations. So I love the network that the UCC has started. The UUA has similar systems. Lastly, I want to say, and these links will be added in the chat once I wrap up here in a second or two, that we have to be able to get the people the resources that they need. Melanie and others have emphasized that people are reaching out. What do I do? Reverend Yadi, what do I do? People are scared and afraid. There are resources out there available. There are crisis hotlines. There are ways that you need to have at the ready. When someone calls to you, you give them a number. You don't wait for 2 weeks to respond. And while you reach out to me and then I take 2 weeks to respond. There's just a lot. We need to all be much more agile in how we respond during this particular time. So there'll be a link to our latest newsletter, our Uplift newsletter, which was on Visibility Day, and it is just a wealth of resources in all the areas. It is the recordings to the webinars that we've hosted. It is the links to organizations that we support, as well as mutual aids and different things that you can stay connected to. But most of all, connected to democracy legislation, and know that this is an assault against democracy. And the best thing that we can do is all vote. All vote this year, not withhold a grudge, being afraid of, sad about the things that we haven't gotten done so far legislatively, but think about the most vulnerable and how they're losing their rights as we whine about what we haven't gotten. So that is soapbox out. I just am so grateful to be here and connected with my own personal denomination, as well as the denomination that I serve in this role. And I'm so proud of OWL for having this space to talk about these things. And my heart is with all those right now who are in need of abortion care and reproductive health and aren't able to get it, or afraid that they won't. That is just underlying my feelings today, and just thinking of all of you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I would like to say, in addition to the welcoming renewal programs, we also need to think about welcoming or renewing OWL facilitator training. When somebody has been doing the work for 20 years, they might have their sort of entrenched languages and whatnot. And so we do have webinars, we have recommended updates on language, but sometimes just reading something and putting it in your OWL manual isn't enough. You need to actually get a retraining. So please, be in conversation with the people who are facilitating your Our Whole Lives programs. Make sure that they are actually welcoming and affirming, and that they're, not entrenched in the old ways of thinking and speaking about our whole lives. So, Erin, welcome. What we've done is we've had Mike and Yadi and Michael share some perspectives, and what the work that they're involved in and engaged with, both denominationally and in other community settings. And so, if you would like to jump in and share a bit about what you're doing in Texas.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me and being flexible with me. There is so much going on in our movement right now, friends. I just came from the UU Poor People's Campaign kickoff event, and now over here, and all of our work is connected. All of this work is intersecting. So thank you for the chance to be here. And so I am the minister and executive director of the Texas UU Justice Ministry. That is one of the couple dozen plus state action networks for UUs across the country. Not every state has one, but check and see if your state has a state action network. You can look it up at qsan.org. That's for the Coalition of UU State Action Networks, CUUSAN.org, because sometimes your state action networks will work with you on more OWL trainings or OWL programming. We in Texas, as you know, I'm sure, are fighting all the fights right now in the name of love, in the name of human rights, including supporting our trans kids, our non-binary kids and their families. I'm not sure how much you've heard about this in this call, but just briefly, have you talked about it already, or should I? Yeah.
Go for it as if we haven't.
Well, one thing that happened in the last couple of months was that our governor and our attorney general basically issued a non-binding, we always want to emphasize non-binding, but an opinion that gender affirming care for minors could be construed as child abuse. So we at the Texas UU Justice Ministry, taking the lead from our friends and partners in the trans community and the queer community showed up at the Department of Family and Protective Services for their strategic planning meeting. And we spoke to the elements of the strategic plan in regards to how they should be supporting our trans non-binary Texans. And so one of the ways we're continuing to do that is by making sure that our OWL trainings are up to date and that our OWL facilitators are, we have enough OWL facilitators. There's so much demand for OWL. This is such an important program. I say that to you as someone who, as a UU youth, went through the precursor to OWL about your sexuality. And I credit that program for a really healthy view on myself and sexuality in the world. And as the mother of a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, one of whom is queer and one of whom is, they can tell me when they're ready. I won't make any assumptions. But I am so excited for the Texas UU Justice Ministry to co-sponsor an OWL facilitator training in Austin in September. We also shout out North Texas UU congregations who are training OWL facilitators in all levels in August. So those two things are in the email link or in the link to our newsletter that I just put forth. That's like the first thing that's on my mind. But I just think that OWL is vital, as I'm sure you've already been talking about. You know, we can show up for legislative work, and we will continue to show up for legislative work as a state action network. And we want to do something positive for the next generation that we think builds power and capacity and knowledge and self-love and community love that's going to serve us for generations to come. So as a justice ministry, we think of the providing OWL training and encouraging OWL as part of a tapestry of justice efforts for people of all genders, for queer people, for our trans kids. I just think I could not be more important, and we're very excited to be working on it with our member congregations.
Wow, what a hopeful and helpful group we have here today. So well resourced. I'm imagining that many people are going to be reaching out to y'all after this webinar. About the trainings, I just want to say, yay, OWL trainings. We are starting to see many in-person trainings come, especially in the summer and fall. And Melanie and I do our best to cross-populate our calendars so that they should all have all the trainings on them. So I just put a link to the UCC calendar in the chat, and maybe Melanie would like to put one there. I do want to say for any of you that are watching this post today, that we will curate all these links and resources that are in the chat and put them in the next Our Whole Lives newsletter. So if you have not signed up for that, I encourage you to go to ucc.org/OWL, and there's a sign up place there. It's a quarterly newsletter. It should be coming out a little bit later this month. It's open to anybody. We just share things like the UCC platform does this, the UUA platform does the online OWL trainings. We're just trying to lift each other up and be in partnership with these ministries as much as we can. So there are online OWL trainings available with limited space and open right now only to UCC and UUA folks. So you can see that on those training pages as well. We do have some questions in the Q&A. So I want to get to those. And one of them is, they're echoing the fear and concern about the wider issues of this being concerted campaign to reduce rights for folks. So the first question is, will SCOTUS reverse LGBT rights? And what are the resources? How do I talk to legislature? And then my son has been through so much, and I worry he'll be denied treatment at some point. So we can't predict what SCOTUS will do, but I know that there is concern about that, particularly with this, with what has happened this week with the leak about Roe v. Wade. Who else would like to speak to that at this point?
Yes, so I would say if we let them, I think that again, there is a passive sort of will they. If we allow them to, they will do whatever. I think that we should go ahead and accept within ourselves that if we let them, they will do it, which is why it is so important now to be connected, to strategize. Mike called us in around being late to the game to this, and they know that progressive values are held by a majority of the country. Therefore, they are in a pull the fire alarm situation right now, where they can manipulate our political system, our democracy, according to the Electoral College and consolidated areas of conservatism, in order to consolidate power. And so they will do whatever they need to do to make these wedge issues. And so I would say I was looking ahead at the questions. And so one of the questions are, they want us to get down into the minutia of sport teams, and shouldn't sexuality be taught at home, and do, like, that is a trap. Like, the answer is no, no, no. Protect our people, protect the ones that we love. The answer and the response is no. Do not get down into the minutia of who's teaching what and what book is being banned. And that's what they want you to do. They don't even know the titles of these books that they're banning. They don't even understand, like, they just know that people get angry about trans issues, and they get angry about race, and they get angry about this, and they feel. And so arguing, they don't really care about the trans person who's trying to play basketball. They have no idea. They know nothing about it. They just know that it raises donations and gets people motivated and angry. So our response should always be no, 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 no to those. It's because that is what the goal is. And so yes, it is a strategy that we have to respond to, and not isolated into trans or women or abortion, or it's a concerted effort.
I love that, Michael. No, just no, no. I just wanted to share with you, I'm wearing a shirt that says abortion is sacred, a human right, healthcare. And it came from a trip that I took as a chaplain a few days ago, my first time on a plane since COVID, to go from Texas to New Mexico as a chaplain for 20 Texans who are going out of state for safe and legal abortions. And I put a link in the chat about sort of the Texas UU Justice Ministry's response, and some places where you can find more information and listen to a podcast about it. There is active resistance to this. Whatever they are trying to do, we have active work to do, and ways to make sure that people have access who need access. And we know that, poor people, predominantly people of color, struggle with access to reproductive rights by design. And so we have work to do. So anyway, I share that link with you from the Texas UU Justice Ministry if you'd like to know more about that program that's happening. But I know that probably wherever you are, there are some very kind of on the ground, frontline led programs that you can seek out and support. But it was one of the most powerful experiences of my ministry to be alongside these folks. And I feel more committed than ever that we can trust people to make their decisions, and that this is faith work. So.
Yeah, and I just, I really appreciate both of your voices on that. And I do, because we have a couple people that are like, huh, what? I do want to just lift up specifically, yes, teach sexuality education at home. Yes, teach it in church. Yes, teach it in school. Like, why not teach it everywhere? And we need to normalize it. Everybody has a body. everybody needs to understand how bodies work. And we need to normalize talking about bodies, talking about gender, talking about diversity. It's a false narrative that there is not diversity in humanity. It's just not true. And so we need to be the voices that lift it up. And we need to be the voices of our faith, and we need to be active in, as we were talking about, like anti-trans is anti-faith, Michael was talking about earlier. We need to really, really be those very loud. We can't be too loud right now as people of faith, lifting this up. So, no, I mean, this whole thing about sports teams is usually about like one kid in an entire state. And also, again, like, what is the fear? Let's go back to what is the fear. And the fear is, as Michael was saying, and Aaron is talking about, like, we need to say no to the fear is what we need to do, and be a wider message of love and care and acceptance, and normalizing people in all their beautiful humanity of who they are. I hear that there's concern about the LGBTQ rights, and there are different webinars and different actions that people are taking, and the spokesperson training and all those things about how to take specific legislative action. I know that our UCC DC office is working on quite a lot of how to respond. And I know that Mike and Yadi are working with them for how to deal with things legislatively. I also, just back to the education thing, I also want to say that we have on both the UCC and UUA websites, we have a new video series called Under Your Wing, and it is specifically designed to talk to young children ages 5 to 7 about issues like bodies and gender and body boundaries, and how babies are made and all those kind of things.
Amy, I was going to add also that we have parents and caregivers as sexuality educators, and that is a support that you can offer. We've done a video on how you can offer it online if you'd like to do that. The thing that I think we also need to think of, not only having congregations that are safe spaces, but having families that are safe spaces. I just spoke to a young man yesterday, 16-year-old, who's terrified he might be gay. And he is lucky that he has a grandma and an aunt he can speak to, but those are the only two people in his circle who he knows he can be safe with. So the more that we can do to foster families that are affirming of diversity, the better. The other thing that I would suggest is that we think about the fear that we might face if a young person, or if any person, says, I need reproductive health care. How can I get there? And dig down into ourselves and say, how can I help that? Can I help with financial resources? Can I actually help drive somebody? Am I willing to take that risk if I'm in a state that has made that an offense? If you're an Uber driver, right, there's some thinking that, you're committing a felony if you drive someone to get reproductive care, right? So we really need to think as people committed to justice, how committed are we? How much are we willing to sacrifice in order to help people get the support, safety, and care that they need?
Yeah, and thanks. Yeah, so important in such time. Like, we're the people we've been waiting for, right? Like, not to be trite, but here we are. And what I do want to say, though, is somebody has a question about. Oh, thank you, Andrea. She's telling me if we go over, it's okay today. So we may. I just want to say, somebody's saying, how can we enable some of these efforts via Our Whole Lives? So here's what I want to say about that. Our Whole Lives, we give information about the fact of gender and orientation diversity and human sexuality diversity, in terms of the idea of how can we enable some of these things via Our Whole Lives. It's important to remember that we encourage people to do just what Melanie said, to think and do that critical thinking for themselves about what they are willing to do and the actions that they're willing to take and where their values are. And so it's important that we realize that OWL doesn't in itself teach how to go take on the legislature about these things. OWL doesn't actually even say, isn't even like pro-abortion. It's pro-information and it's pro-choice. It's pro you have the right, the moral agency to choose. And so it's a very, you have to do your own personal work in places like Texas and Florida and places where the rights are being stripped to decide how you're going to handle that if that discussion comes up in Our Whole Lives program. Wow, lots of questions. Can say yes, Yadi, please. And there's lots of things flying around in the chat as well.
Yeah. I just want to say Our Whole Lives gives the information and provides a space for to normalize it and not be ashamed. And I'm saying it doesn't really give you what to do, but our students are so smart. I had a young person who went out and bought pregnancy tests and told me that, when girls go buy them, they look at them all weird and wrong. And so he went ahead and bought them, and because he knew a friend needed them. And how did he know to do this? If not because he went through the program and knew that that was something he wanted to do. The same thing with condoms during prom, and to go and use these things to go buy condoms for prom because some kids need them. So I am confident that this program is giving them the resources that they're able to say, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to help my friends. And so I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
I'm trying to respond to all the things happening at the same time. Melanie, can you take another question there maybe in the
I'm looking at the one that says, I work in a senior community where these concerns are very new to many who live here. I've been asked questions about why legislation limiting what is discussed at the elementary school age is a bad thing. Shouldn't these conversations happen at home? Also, would non-binary sports leagues and programs be a fair way to deal with the concerns regarding trans athletes? That goes to what Michael said earlier. Don't let's get mired in the minutia of what's going on. In terms of, so OWL for older adults actually has a workshop called Family Matters, and it's about having these conversations, multi-generational conversations within families. Sometimes it's the older person who's not progressive and needs to understand who their adult children or their grandchildren are and what those words are. Sometimes it's the older adults who are more progressive, who need to step in and be that safe place for a grandchild or a grandchild's friend. So, that's another way that OWL can help, is by offering OWL for older adults in senior communities or in your church, and invite the folks from senior communities in. You can help affect the attitudes and the actions of the older adults in your community.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm looking down as we're reaching the top of the hour here. I'm going to crowdsource your question, Wonderflower, which is, are there any links or organizations in Williamsburg, Newport News, Virginia area? So thank you so much, Michael. Michael Crumpler needs to leave us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
So I'm going to crowdsource that for Williamsburg, Virginia area. A training of trainers is something that, another question about that is something that the UUA and UCC do together and coordinate when we need more training. So there is not a current plan in the works, but stay tuned. We shout that out when we have those. And also it is an application process. So we do you apply for those. Trainings for new facilitators. If you're having a hard time finding one, I really recommend you go to the training sites that are in the chat, the UCC one, UUA one, and take a look at the options for online training if you're a UCC or a UUA person.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Congregations are welcome to host their own trainings, whether you're UCC or you're UU or you work for Planned Parenthood. You know, anybody can host a training, and Amy and I can help you with that. There are always also planning guides online. Amy, I'm wondering if we might want to thank our guests, and then they can leave if we need to, and then we can stay on and answer questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Erin, I know you need to scoot to. Yadi, thank you. Mike, always thank you so much. And you can be in touch with any of them, or Melanie and myself can get you in touch with them if you need to. So thank you for your time today and all your hopeful advocacy, and we look forward to working more with you. Melanie and I will stay on a few more minutes to answer questions that are still
out there.
coming in fast and furiously. So.
Right? I just put my, sorry, before I go, I put my email. I'm just sending love and solidarity to all of you from Texas. Reach out if you need anything. It was wonderful to see all of you on the panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Folks, if you're trying to save the chat, as Amy mentioned, we will be sharing, we'll save the chat. And when you get your follow-up email after this webinar, you'll get the link to today's webinar so you can share it. And you'll also get the links that were provided in the chat, which were many.
I also just want to say there's one caveat to that, because I've been contacted by folks a few times saying I didn't get a follow-up email. So when you register, if you don't click that you are willing to have the UCC email you occasionally, then they can't. So then you will not receive a follow-up email. But I will put all the links. We will save the chat. Andrea, by we, I mean Andrea, the fabulous and we'll call all those links, and I will put them in the Our Whole Lives newsletter coming out later this week.
And you know what, we put them on our page. So on the OWL Facilitator Resources page, where some of you registered for this, under the when we get the link for the YouTube video from the UCC, I'll post that, and I can post the links there on that same page as well.
Yeah, I can see about getting them on our YouTube playlist as well, where we post ours. So Sandra's asking, should you re-register? No, you don't need to do that. I would say just if you want them seriously in the next week or so, where I'll get out the Our Whole Lives newsletter. So that's one of the best ways, that, or to check the UUA site. So, more questions. Okay, so trainings for current facilitators become trainers. Yes, I understand what you're saying, Claire. Sorry about that. Somebody's saying, I'm getting questions from friends in states like California and in local churches about what we can do to support folks in states where liberties are overtly under attack. Specifically those of our trans and gender non-binary siblings. Besides giving money to support on-the-ground orgs and of course spiritual energy, what can folks in states where protections are not under explicit attack trust? Even here in California, even in San Francisco, these rights and protections are under attack. What can we do to provide efforts in other states? Well, I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to invite Mike and Yadi to chime in. But I think that first of all, money and spiritual energy is a good thing to do. And then also providing an Our Whole Lives program, and then contacting those agencies in other places and the places that are doing that work, and asking them what they need. That's something that you can do. Mike and Yadi, what would you add to that?
Well, that's pretty much the kinds of things that I was going to suggest. But many of us have friends and family in these places. And so be sure that you're in touch with them and reach out, ask them what would be helpful, what's happening, what's on their radar screen. I recognize that sometimes friends and family in those places may not be as supportive of those issues as you are. So you may have an opportunity to have that one-on-one conversation, and the relationship that you have may be the catalyst that changes the heart and mind that needs to change in the situation to create another advocate for equality. So those are some of the things, and there are a variety of tools out there. Sometimes it's hard to find the exact one you need. But I know that the LGBTQ task force did a wonderful job of curating, having those kinds of one-on-one conversations with people. And so the task force would be one of those sources where you could go and find some of those resources to have those one-on-one conversations.
I would add that, that saying, nothing about us without us. So, you always want to reach out to the community that you suspect needs help and ask them, as Amy said, ask them what kind of help would be welcome, as opposed to saying, I'm going to do this on the assumption that it's what you need.
Absolutely. Melanie and Mike deserve asking, reaching out. So for example, I live in Princeton, Texas, and when they reached out to me and said, we need help, they're trying to shut us down. So if you live in Texas and want to do a road trip to Princeton, Texas on June 29th for our Pride event, come on down, because they could use all the support that they can have. So if you have friends and family in Texas, in the Dallas Metroplex area, the DFW area, that can make a road trip to Princeton, a couple of hours towards McKinney, and just come to this Pride event and just show up, it would be amazing, because that the negative part of the council and all these other folks are going to be there. And these young people from Princeton High School are like really trying to get this event going. So that support, showing up, being there, reaching out to them. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the website link on it of Princeton, because they could even use an email saying, we got you, we're praying for you, we're there for you. So and just is the little corner of where I am, but definitely reaching out to your friends and family about this. Appreciate this.
Thank you.
I want to just ask if Yadi and Mike, something in the Q&A is being referenced about a UCC event about parents of trans kids talking about experiences to legislature and schools. Do either of you know what that was and if it was recorded? Okay. So David, I'm not sure if you want to contact us outside of this we can see if we can help you with that and see if there's more information for you around that. You can reach me at owl@ucc.org. That's the easiest one. And then there's, I know Mike and Yadi have both put their emails in the chat. Some of the other questions are, again, bigger, broader questions than we have the ability to answer on the scope of this particular webinar in relationship to our whole lives. I don't know if anybody had resources in, where was it? Williamsburg, Virginia area. But I do know we have an Our Whole Lives trainer in Virginia. So if that person wants to reach out to me or Melanie post webinar, we can see if we can connect you.
Yeah, and any OWL facilitators can, and also program organizers or coordinators, religious educators, Christian educators are welcome to be on the OWL facilitators email lists. So that's another place where you can reach out and say, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah. Okay, well, with that, we are way over the top of the hour. I just again want to thank all of you so much for being here, and for all the work that you are doing and all the love that you are showing and all the justice that you are advocating for and upholding as people of faith. Hopefully you maybe feel a little less overwhelmed or less alone after this today, and we wish you the best in what you're doing, and anybody else have any final words?
The only thing I would say is that in June, we are going to be talking about autism and Our Whole Lives.
Yes. And in July, we have someone from amaze.org. So we're hitting the big time, y'all. So thank you. And we started today with all these amazing advocates. So thank you so much. And,
Thank you.
And peace and blessings to you on your day.